So we are continuing along with my quest to bring you stories from marketers who are working hard every day to build inclusive brands that make more of the people they serve feel like they belong with them. And today is no different. I am so excited today to share with you my conversation with the Chief Marketing Officer at Reckitt, Gary Osifchin. And you might not have heard of Reckitt, but you've heard of many of their brands like Lysol, Calgon, Finish, and Woolite. I learned a ton from Gary, and his approach, his way of thinking, the way he's instituted this expectation on his team about inclusive marketing is impressive and definitely something that you'll want to take out a pen and paper and take notes from. So after this short break, you will hear my conversation with the Chief Marketing Officer at Reckitt. Did you know that most businesses only use 20% of their data? That's like reading a book with most of the pages torn out or paying for a coffee that's just 1/5 full. Point is, you miss a lot unless you use HubSpot. Their customer platform gives you access to the data you need to grow your business. The insights trapped in emails, call logs, and transcripts, all that unstructured data that makes all the difference. Because when you know more, you grow more. And when you get a full cup of coffee, you can do more too. But I digress. Visit HubSpot.com today. Hey, Gary, thanks so much for joining me today. How are you?
I'm well, Sonia. And yourself?
I am doing well. I'm super excited to chat with you today to learn more about the work you and your team are doing. But before we get too far into that, let the people know, who are you and what do you do?
Yeah, sure. I'm Gary Osifchin. I'm the Chief Marketing Officer and General Manager of the U.S. Hygiene business at Reckitt. So that's a long title, but you'd know us for our brands: Lysol, Finish Auto Dish, Airwick Air Fresheners, Resolve carpet cleaning products.
Very cool.
And a bunch of other home good products.
All household names that we know.
Lots of household names. I've been a CPG marketer for over 20 years since getting my MBA at Northwestern University at Kellogg. And I've worked in home cleaning categories, home storage, spent a long stint in food marketing, working and running brands globally, including Oreo and Cadbury, and then made this point in my career a switch about 3 years ago back over into these interesting home care categories.
Very cool. Very cool. So I'm sure that you've got lots of perspective to share with us today, particularly around the topic of inclusive marketing and culturally inclusive brands. Now, I'm curious from your perspective, what does it mean to be a culturally inclusive brand?
You know, it's a big question, and there's a lot within that. To unpack it, what I would say is it depends on the brand, right? What's your brand strategy, and how do you best resonate with your particular consumer base? The reality of America today, in many markets around the world, but in my current role, I'm working on U.S. brands, is that we are more culturally diverse than we've ever been. So we already are a majority, minority, cosmopolitan society in our top DMAs, in our top cities, right, in the country today. And we are fast becoming a majority, minority nation. And within that, there's lots more diversity, right? You can't just say that there's Hispanic, Black, and Asian Americans and LGBT. Within each one, or in all diverse groups of people, there's even more diversity under there. So for a mainstream mass marketed brand like Lysol, let's take, what it means for Lysol is that we are being authentic in one, understanding our consumer, understanding their needs and how they may differ. And in that case, things like product matter. So product matters in a line of Lysol disinfectant and cleaning products called Brand New Day. And they're very scent forward. Things like mango and hibiscus or coconut and sea mineral. Like, it's a very fragrance forward product development, very much designed to meet the fragrance scent first needs of Hispanic and Black population. That's a product example. And then a way in which to be culturally inclusive there. When you look at awards that we've won and why we're winning them from a standpoint of big brand Lysol around cultural inclusion, that's because we recognize and acknowledge that we have different families and different consumers, and we represent them. We truly, authentically represent them in our advertising. And our advertising resonates with them. So when we were named from the AIMM, the Alliance for Inclusive and Multicultural Marketing, one of the most effective and inclusive brands, Lysol 2 years in a row, that was voted by consumers because they see themselves in our advertising and they recognize and respect a brand that everybody knows. People know Lysol. I mean, it's a massive brand in the U.S. market, but it's really significant to be noticed by consumers for the fact that we have diverse actors portraying the families who use our Lysol products. So it's both.
For sure.
In the example I use there, a product is important, but then the communications is very critical. Whereas if I think about brand Finish, which is different, competing as a vibrant challenger to big brand Cascade, Finish is very much about product superiority and is focused on food moments as a connection territory. I'm really excited about the work we've done on Finish, where we uncovered a Hispanic insight that Hispanic consumers, majority of whom have dishwashers in their home, don't use the dishwasher because they think using the dishwasher is a bit of a cop-out. It's taking the easy way out. And preparing food and caring for your family includes doing the dishes. And that's part of care and love for the family environment. And so we really unwound that and then put communication out into the marketplace that is focused on the insight of a multi-generational Hispanic family, where it's demonstrating that it's okay to use the dishwasher. Okay. And it's sort of like trying to take that bias away from a standpoint of, I shouldn't use the dishwasher. It's actually okay to use the dishwasher. And it gives you more time with your loved ones. And then when I think about the food moments work that we've done in that instance, in terms of cultural relevance, with Hispanic Heritage Month last year, we launched new copy that was around specific food occasions. And enchiladas, I think, was the recipe we happened to use there. But that, again, is just recognizing that we're in a journey of investment to gain household penetration for brand Finish with Hispanic households. We have to recognize that the inside of the dishwasher category usage is different with them. And then we have to convey our messaging to them with consumer relevant recipes in that way. So long answers there, perhaps, but it's about understanding your brand strategy, understanding your audience, and then whether it's product or communication, representation, or specific, more importantly, messaging grounded in insight is what enables a brand to be on the journey of being culturally inclusive. Yeah. There's many different steps.
Yeah. So I love everything that you just said. And I mean, there's so many things that marketers and business leaders can learn from a variety of the different things that you said. And because the last thing that you mentioned, that there are many different steps, and that requires a lot of people in the organization to be on board to move this forward. You all have been awarded Best in Ad Effectiveness from AIMM's Most Culturally Inclusive Brand Study. That was you mentioned. How have you cultivated a culture of inclusion within your marketing organization so that you can achieve this and make all those moving parts that you just mentioned in the previous question work together?
Yeah, no, it's a great question. I mean, I very much instituted an expectation as a leader of my marketing teams, first and foremost, to know who their consumers are from a diverse audience standpoint and understand, how they're doing in terms of household penetration, buy rate, frequency of purchase, what needs to be solved to better address the needs of consumers. Is it, that I mentioned scent? Is it product changes? How are they looking at graphics? What in our communications in terms of an insight, whether it's a Hispanic insight or it's representation of Black families using our Lysol products. First and foremost, what do we know? What's the baseline in terms of how we resonate or don't? And then what do we need to do to better resonate? And that's a lot of rich qual, a lot of in-home, a lot of upskilling and ensuring that we actually are speaking to diverse consumers to gain insight. And that insight then drives your communications and your product development. And then you have to have quantitative testing, as we do in all of our comms and our product development, to ensure that against the audience segments that you wanted to do something better with and resonate more with, are we actually doing that? Are we actually delivering a better fragrance experience with our Lysol Brand New Day products amongst the target consumers of African American and Hispanics? The answer is yes, we are, because we developed it based on insight, and then we tested it to ensure that we were delivering against it. And then we communicate, big brand Lysol in a way that is truly, grounded in consumer truths that resonate and that we represent Asian, African American, Hispanics in our advertising. One key moment for us to do that, and Lysol is our Here for Healthy Schools initiative, where we have partnerships for the last several years with Title I schools, which are majority minority. And we focused in on education from COVID, throughout COVID, after COVID, now, thankfully, on healthy habits. And we don't make hand soap, but hand washing is one of the first things that kids need to recognize that actually helps you in terms of your health. We've had a healthy habits series in those schools where we provide content, both physical and digital, in the form of newsletters, in the form of stickers and posters, in the form of a backpack filled with supplies and learning and knowledge to get kids ready for the school season in terms of the suppression of germs and spreading of germs. And that goes for things with hand washing that we don't even do on Lysol, up to what it means to clean your surfaces and ensure that they're disinfected so that everybody can have an opportunity to focus on their education, because kids' sick days, prevent that education.
Yeah.
And so it's really important for us to do acts in the world with brand Lysol that resonate and actually have impact with, minority populations in schools. Because our journey at a highest level for brand Lysol is to democratize disinfection and ensure that we are helping to break the chain of infection for everyone. And in Title I schools being majority minority, it's very important from a partnership standpoint for us to do that there. So to your question, though, to me as a leader, it starts with me being a leader saying this is important. It's important not because it's nice to do. It's important because it's our business, and we're running our business, and we need to address the needs of our consumers, and our consumers have changed. So what needs to be put in place to ensure that you're consistently understanding your consumer changing needs, communicating both product, graphic design, and communications, and actually doing things in the world that are resonating with them. And so that leadership is important first and foremost, and then the systems and the ability for teams to ensure that they have the ways and approaches to do that and do it well, and to measure it and measure their progress and hold themselves accountable to improving our communications to be culturally relevant and inclusive is really critical. But it starts with leadership, which I believe I've done well in the course of my career in the multicultural space.
Very cool. Okay, I've got another podcast recommendation for you. It's Augmenters, hosted by Julie Meyer and Jimmy Edgerton, and it's brought to you by the HubSpot Podcast Network, the audio destination for business professionals. So on this show, Julie and Jimmy dive into mentoring and explore ways to augment and refresh the mentoring environment. They're using 8 core principles that weave relevant spirit guides and diverse guests, and Julie and Jimmy use a lot of humor and practical tips to help mentors and mentees get further, faster together. There's so many great episodes to tune into for this show, but one that you might find especially interesting is their latest episode, number 120, Mentoring Across Gender, Men as Allies and Mentors. Listen to Augmenters wherever you get your podcasts. So you mentioned that this is something, of course, it starts from the top down, and you've been able to do that with the brands that you've been working on. Can you talk a little bit about maybe even the journey to getting to where you're operating as this well-oiled machine that you are, where you're winning these awards? It starts from leadership, then how does it work? Is it more about aligning the data? Is it aligning the measurements? Are there key milestones that you were saying that need to happen to help get from a leadership mandate to actually you're operating at an inclusive level consistently?
Absolutely. And I think that what I've done is ensure that it's part of our operating model. So we have an annual brand planning process that starts with the learning agenda and from an insights to action, phase, what do we know, that leads into a relook at the next 3 years of the strategy and the pillars for the brands, that then moves into the closer next year planning process for the brand plan, the financial plan, innovation, renovation, activation, communication, everything that we do as marketers, right? But it's not a separate process. I hold my teams accountable within that first phase of their learning agenda and insights into implications. What do they know? And where relevant, what do they know about Hispanics, African Americans, diverse audiences of consumers? What are we doing well? what are we not doing well and what do we now need to do, and what's the implication then as you go forward into strategic planning and into brand planning. What's your marketing investment? What's your product innovation and renovation to better resonate and achieve the business objectives with those consumer segments who are fast growing in the US? And by embedding it into the regular course of business, it's a requirement. I mean, it's running the business, as opposed to, I've been in many organizations over the years where we used to, have a separate person focused on multicultural or a separate group focused on Hispanic. And I honestly don't think it works. The only way it works is to embed it in the thinking, because we are consumer marketers marketing consumer products. If we're not understanding our consumers who include multicultural, then you're not going to achieve it. And so by embedding it, I love the fact that in front of, I sit on the North American leadership team, but as we progress our plans and we're there with, my counterpart as the CFO or my boss, the president of North America, supply chain, the full cross-functional team is hearing from me and my team, this is what is important. There within the Lysol strategy is a specific pillar around reaching multicultural consumers, period. It's part of our strategy.
Yeah.
And that's why I believe then the lovely outcome of driving the business results and then being noticed by consumers, by industry associations for the work we're doing is icing on the cake.
Yeah. Very cool. All right. So earlier you mentioned some work that you were doing with Title I schools with regards to Lysol. How have you seen, or how do you think about making sure that you're not only doing the marketing and engaging with different communities, multicultural communities, while at the same time doing different initiatives such as the one that you mentioned with the Title I schools? Because sometimes people view that as marketing and other people view it as relationship building.
Yeah, we have longstanding relationships with the PTA, with Kids in Need Foundation. We leverage those relationships to ensure that we're providing access to tools, information, knowledge that teachers can use in the school. So we have in our Here for Healthy Schools, which is around back to school time, it's our main equity thrust for Lysol to market and communicate our efforts that change each year in terms of what we do around Here for Healthy Schools. A really important one that we did the last 2 years was around leveraging those relationships and partnerships. And like I said, providing, healthy habits, hand washing, providing tools and things to better understand the role of disinfection. But that was born out of a multicultural insight where we really went and we spoke to parents and kids of diverse backgrounds and really understood how much they had come out of COVID differently. And you can read all the data. I mean, it says that a lot of underserved schools coming out of COVID have more absenteeism, more sickness, kids not advancing in terms of reading and math as much as kids who had a lot of privilege, a lot of tutors, a lot of things available to them during COVID. And it was important for us to say that there's an insight there that we can do something about, that kids are better together and learn more when they thrive. They can thrive more when they're together, right? And kids of diverse backgrounds, it's even more important for them to be together to learn about their differences. And so we did a whole kids series called Table Talk of content that was put out as part of the campaign a couple of years ago, but that was real kids talking about real things. And it was brought to you by Lysol. It was our tabletop kind of lunch series, and you kids can come together and thrive and learn from each other, but they need to do that in a safe environment, right? And the lunch table is a dirty environment. And so Lysol can provide the products that help school cafeterias clean, with Lysol wipes, with Lysol disinfectant spray. So it's about product relevancy in a key moment of back to school when you know that kids go to school and they're going to get sick and they're going to bring sickness home. But more importantly, it's about the acts of both content, the partnerships that we've done with backpacks, donations of wipes over the years that we've done to schools and Title I schools that actually, are living up to our purpose of democratizing disinfection.
Very cool.
Any consistency matters. Doing one-offs and, raising $50,000 for one thing. We all done that as marketers. I mean, I'm very focused on us consistently showing up. I can't speak to it right now, but we'll be launching this year's Here for Healthy Schools program, which will be new from the one that we've used for the last 2 years, which again will be giving back and doing something within Title I schools.
Very cool. Very cool. Let me switch gears a little bit before we wrap up. And I want to hear your thoughts as a consumer. Can you tell me about a time when a brand made you feel like you belonged?
I'm an out gay executive, have been my whole career. I think, skincare is important. I think the Kiehl's brand of skincare products very much has connected with LGBT people and has kept themselves relevant. I mean, I think they do a lot of personalization of content. Their experience is welcoming for everyone. They've done things consistently around Pride Month, as many brands do. But I think I speak to their consistency and messaging, and that they've made, I think, for males in particular, they've made skincare something that used to be deemed for females. They've made it accessible for males.
Very cool. Very cool. Gary, this has been super insightful. Thank you so much for stopping by. Do you have any parting words of wisdom for marketers and business leaders who want to build culturally inclusive brands?
I think that I would advise everybody to get close to the consumers. We have a regular cadence of in-home visits, of online videos, of consumer qualitative, to make sure that we understand what's happening with our diverse consumers and how we can better serve their needs. So get out there and talk to your consumers first and foremost, and ensure that the work you do to grow your business amongst diverse audiences is coming from a place of wanting to connect with them and being truly authentic, which is a word we all throw around, but actually meaning it and doing it, as opposed to just showing up, at a Black History Month or at a Hispanic Heritage Month. You have to be consistent.
Very cool. Thanks so much, Gary. This has been super insightful and I learned so much.
Gary had so many cool things to share, and I am super curious about what was the key takeaway from you from what it was that he had to share. Let me know. Let's continue the conversation. Let's chat on LinkedIn, on Instagram, socials, email, in the DMs, whatever is easiest for you. If you like the show, please do share it with a friend, colleague, and your network. It really does go a long way towards helping more people discover the show. And I like to think it helps more people practice being inclusive in their marketing. Also, if you are enjoying the Inclusion Marketing Podcast, please do leave a rating and review for it in your podcast player of choice. Like sharing it with your friends in your network. It also goes a long way towards helping more people discover the show. Are you getting the Inclusion and Marketing newsletter? If not, really, what are you even doing? Each week, I send news, insights, stories, and other goodies for you to help you build an inclusive brand that attracts and retains a more diverse customer base. Go to inclusionandmarketing.com/newsletter to get signed up. Until next time, remember, everyone deserves to have a place where they belong. Let's use our individual and collective power to ensure more people feel like they do. Thanks so much for listening. Talk to you soon.